Hey, it's Beth. Welcome. This is the Basic Gray, Bringing Back Basic Gray collaboration. And today I'm going to be making a 12 by 12 scrapbook page layout using papers, tags, and stickers from the Blitzen collection from Basic Gray. And I believe this collection was sent to me in Happy Mail several years ago. I, at this point, don't remember who sent it, but thank you if you are the one who sent me this collection. I've been enjoying it. And then I have some stickers from Bourbon that kind of worked color-wise with the collection. And then I am going to be using a page sketch. I wanted to find one because I have the tags that go with the collection. I had wanted to find a layout that would allow me, that kind of gave me some ways to use some of those tags. So I decided to use that whitish piece as my page base, and then I'm going to bring in half of that blue circle, and then I will bring in a strip of one of the red and green scraps that I have. So these photos are from my girls and I baking gingerbread houses one evening back in 2019. So it doesn't need to be like a super Christmassy layout, but I did want to bring in some traditional red and green with the blue. So the Bringing Back Basic Gray collaboration is a very small collaboration that I do with a couple friends of mine. Sarah, who is Crafting and Relaxing here on YouTube, and Kathy, who is Stampin' Cat over on Instagram. Each month we pull some of our hoarded Basic Gray stash out to enjoy it. Not necessarily to use it up, but just to enjoy it rather than have it sit in a drawer somewhere. We've decided that it brings us joy to actually pull it out and play with it rather than just keep saving it. So here with this layout, I made things harder for myself in many ways. But I was wanting to go ahead and get my photos kind of grouped together so that I could move them as one as I'm trying to arrange everything behind them. I didn't want to glue them down just yet because there was a lot of things that I was going to be tucking in behind it with tags and scraps. And so I just wanted to make it easier to kind of keep the photos together but be able to still move things behind them. So at this point, I'm going through the scraps some of the smaller scraps that I have, and then the tags, and trying to figure out how I can use up a good bit of those. And again, I wanted to bring in some more red on the layout, so I was trying to make sure I use some of the scraps and tags that had red in it. The page sketch actually called for a circle element in the top left corner of my photo grouping, but I decided to use a really big tag there instead. And then here I'm just tucking all the different pieces in. So if you are new to Basic Gray, they used to make paper, and now they have switched over to only making fabric. So you can't buy new Basic Gray anymore. You may still be able to find it, secondhand, thrifted, whatever, but you can't buy it new anymore. And those, you either loved Basic Gray or you didn't. They kind of had a different style at the time from other paper manufacturers, a little bit grungy, a little bit vintagey, and kind of some interesting patterns. And I have found that a lot of that has translated into their fabric, and if I sewed, I would really enjoy their fabric. But so that is why if you loved it and had any, you tended to hoard it once they stopped making it. So if you have some Basic Gray in your stash, pull it out a little bit out and kind of play along with us this month. Enjoy your Basic Gray instead of just letting it sit forgotten in your drawer. It has been fun to pull it out. I would say the hardest thing is trying to find embellishments that work with it, because the tones are a little bit different than what's out now, and then the little grunge factor. So If you're making cards, it's not as big of a deal, but what I have found for scrapbooking, it does tend to be a little difficult. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and lay my big photo grouping down. And one thing I realized, like, I'm very tape heavy on this. I think I just wanted to make sure it was going to stay together and stay down. And now that that's down, we can work on embellishing. I have the letter stickers that I haven't even used any yet, and I did speed this part up more than the rest of the video because I kind of laid my title out just to make sure I was going to have room for it where I wanted it to go. I'm just using the title Gingerbread Fun with the red letter stickers. And this is another instance where I try to make it easier on myself, but it doesn't. It worked the opposite way. I actually did a better job freehanding my layout with the letters here than I did when I went to glue them down using the T-square. So a lot of times you do see me freehand, and this is why, because sometimes it actually turns out better for me. And I don't know, I turned it upside down just because I wanted to make sure that I could see the letters without having my head in the camera view here, like covering over the layout, blocking your view. So I turned it upside down. So I don't know if that's what did me in with this, but I was trying to use my T-square ruler to kind of give me an even line to line up the letters. And I don't know if my ruler moved. I don't know, but it is not straight at all. And I tried to pull some of the letters up and they came, but they started to tear the paper. So at some point I just decided to leave it and embrace the imperfection, the pig imperfection, which is something I think we all need to do a little bit more of when we consider that, we are creating and it's handmade, and it's still a fun layout. I still enjoyed all the different layers, and you'll see me add more kind of embellishments to it here in a bit. I had fun playing with that, so that's what's important, and that's what I'm going to go with this month. But as I finish putting these letters down, I do want to let you know that Sarah and Kathy are linked in the description box below. So please go check out their links to see what basic grade they used this month and what they ended up making. So now that my title is down, I can kind of go and add all of the finishing touches. There was that little green tag that I was determined to use. And so at first I was going to do add the date to it. But then I just decided to add the date up with my journaling on that big blue tag in the top left corner. So I just found some red and white baker's twine, like a little scrap piece, and added that to this green tag. And I am going to add it to the center of the layout. And then I had found some stamped gingerbread images and sentiments already in my kind of sentiment basket. And so I pulled those out, did some quick coloring on the gingerbread because I don't have any gingerbread embellishments. So I'm glad I was able to find those. And I end up putting one of those sentiments on that little green tag in the center. So I was also determined to use these Bow Bunny stickers other than the one that talked specifically about the night before Christmas or something like that. I'll save that as a title for page in the future with this collection. But I decided to add that big swirly piece kind of at the bottom right corner, trying to keep that visual triangle and figure out where I could put everything. So I am adding glue to the back of the stickers, just like I did with the letter stickers, because these are not new by any means. They are probably at least 15 years old. So I just want to make sure everything's going to stick for the long haul. And then there was one little bit of that swirl left that was separate, and so I just added it up there by my title. And then ended up adding there was a sentiment that talked about Be careful, I might snap. So I added that. I thought that made more sense being with one of the gingerbread people, and then the other one was baking through the snow, I think. So that's what I ended up adding to my green tag. I had wanted to cover up the hole in that tag right by my title, and so that's why I kind of stuck a gingerbread there and then added one kind of on the left side as well. And then after this, I do go into my stash and find some sequins that work color-wise. I just thought like it could use some additional pop of color. But first, I did finally remember to add the dots to my eye in gingerbread. So here it's kind of I think it was labeled as a winter mix, but it had like the reds and the blues. And so I decided to pull in red sequins and then a couple of the lightest blue ones that were in this little mix, just to bring in some blue up by my red title. So I don't usually mix colors, but I wanted to kind of emphasize, kind of bring the blue up into that top right corner to kind of, I don't know, make it a little more cohesive. So I did kind of bring in two colors on this layout, but then in the rest I'm going to pepper around some red sequins. Again, just trying to add some touches of color and dimension. I'm using my pick tool from scrapbook.com to help me lay down my sequins, and then just using a little dot of my Barely Art glue. So do you, since I mentioned before that you either love basic gray or you didn't like it, like it wasn't one of those of like, yeah, it's okay. Which camp are you? Are you team basic gray, or were you like, not my jam? Let me know that in the comments below. I had wanted to do something on the like white kind of detail trim areas on my gingerbread, and so I had some pops of color in my little tray that sits on my video desk, and I was thinking it was more white, but it's actually clear, but it will add a glossy aspect to it when it's all said and done. And I realized somebody had mentioned recently like I should have used some glossy accents to make my little small punched paper circles more like enamel dots, and I was like, oh, I'm out of glossy accents, but I realized this totally acted as glossy accents. So now I know. But here is a final look at my layout. Again, please be sure to check out the links for Sarah and Kathy below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you all have a very crafty day.